Inner Peace Press, bringing soul stories to life.
Hello and welcome to Inner Peace Press's YouTube channel. Here we interview authors who have published with Inner Peace Press to find out a little bit more detail about their book, about themselves, and what they're doing with themselves in the world. Today, I'm very happy to have Meghan Neri here, representing her book, Just One Bite: Food Allergy Mom's Search for Answers. Meghan, welcome. So glad that you could be here today.
Thank you, Heather. I'm excited to be here with you.
Nice.
Thank you
So
for
we'll
sharing.
just get right to it. I have some questions for you about what you included in your book and also what you're doing to help people in your community now. So the first one is that you have been a food allergy advocate now for years. How do you keep your passion for informing individuals and families about food allergies?
Thank you for asking that. I think one of the biggest parts of it for me is that it's personal. You know, as a food allergy mom, this is something that I've had to deal with in my house for years. And particularly when my children were younger, it was hard. There were days where I wished that the path was easier. So I try to channel that and think, how can I leave the path behind me easier for those who have yet to come? And that's sort of what keeps me going and keeps me passionate of the work that I keep doing.
Love that. That's great. Thank you. Another question is, so in your book, you have a lot of examples about how your children were faced with situations where they had difficulty regarding their food allergies. And so my question is, what's one thing that a non-food allergy person can do for somebody with food allergies?
Great question. And I have a ton of different ideas that come to mind. But if I had to narrow it down to one, I would say don't be afraid to exclude the food. And what I mean by that is that whether it's a family friend or a colleague or something, if you find out someone has a food allergy, it can sort of bring on some fear and some unknown, and you don't want to hurt somebody or you don't want to make it weird and awkward. And so it might just feel easier sometimes to avoid doing something with that person. But if we exclude the food and we just get together as human beings, there's so many opportunities to still connect in safe ways. And there is a section in the back of the book with a number of non-food activities, whether they're kid friendly, they're adult friendly, so you can find what you need. But really, once you get to know someone on a more personal level, you can understand what their individual needs might be and how you can help them. Before you get to that point, I think excluding the food and doing the things together is the most important tip that I can give.
And that's a great answer. That is something that struck me when reading your book and with working with you in the book, is that the food does seem to have a really big hold on how we commune together. And so it is like, how can we just like think outside the food box, right? To how we can connect with
Yeah,
others
it is a little bit of
socially.
a reframing of the mindset because food brings us together. It's sort of
Mhm.
socially, that's a big thing. And so when you take that out of the equation, it can throw people. It can be a little off-putting. And so that's okay. We're here to give you other ideas and support ways of continuing to come together. So
But
yeah, thank you.
great, thanks. Okay, also in your book, you write about the challenges of dealing with school policies regarding the variety of allergies that students face in one classroom. Because one classroom might be peanuts, one might be dairy, and the third class might have both of those allergies. What's some advice that you could give to parents to advocate for their children within the classroom?
Great question. I think one of the first things I would suggest is to see if you can get a 504 plan in place at your child's school. And this is something that is usually totally doable in the public schools. Private schools are different, so you may not have that option, but they might have other sort of written accommodations that you can put into place. And then, and so by having a plan like that in place, it's a jumping off point. It brings a group together at the school to discuss your child and how things are going to work for your child in the school setting. So if you're going to be having conversations like that, there's usually one of two things. The allergens are usually in the classroom with your child, or they're not in the classroom with your child. And I have often tried to advocate that they're both okay as long as your child is in a safe environment. So if the allergens are excluded and there's no allergens in your child's classroom, that's pretty easy for you. If the allergens are in the classroom, and I do actually encourage this to be explored, because if you have 10 kids with 10 different allergies, do we really want to exclude all those types of foods for all children? I think a really nice thing we can try to do is figure out how to make it safe. How are we teaching kids from even a young age to safely eat together? How are they eating? Are they sharing? I hope not. And then how are they cleaning up their space? How are they washing their hands afterwards? I think with some real intention behind it, we can teach kids how to eat safely together and not necessarily have to take those foods out of the classroom. So those are two different approaches that I think can work nicely.
Great, love that too. Can you just talk a little bit about you call it 504, right?
Yes.
How does that typically work?
It's part of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's a written legal document. There's a team usually in the school or in the district. There's a 504 coordinator, so that's who you would initiate your communication with. And it is a written plan. It has accommodations that you and the school have agreed to. My suggestion is don't march in there demanding things, because it really is reciprocal of a conversation with the school. But you present some things that you think might work well, they'll share their ideas, and you come together to put a plan in place for that academic year. And then you revisit it each year. So as your child changes developmentally, the plan can change.
Excellent. That's great advice and great background information. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So your book outlines your experiences with your two children and their different food allergies and some other tidbits along the way. And in the back of the book, you invited a number of people, it was about 20 people, to answer Q&A. So you gave 4 specific questions to all of the participants, people who are living with food allergies or supporting others with food allergies. What was some of it was one of the difficulty, and some of it was what are the benefits of living with food allergies? What was one of the more surprising answers you received regarding the benefit of living with food allergy?
Oh, thank you. I love this question, because I think anytime we can highlight the good things is nice. There was a recurring theme was just we are healthier because of this. We know what we're putting in our bodies. We have to make good choices. We're eating, healthier foods in general. But the one that really kind of struck me the most was a 6th grade boy who said, I'm gonna quote him, "I don't think people without food allergies have the same appreciation for new foods or just eating in general." And I think when you have food allergies, can be hard at times. It can be scary. And he captures this hope and the joy of, but there's still beauty in food. And so when you find something that is safe and can be enjoyed, that's a really great thing. And that's something to celebrate. And he's sort of saying, it's a big deal. Maybe it's a bigger deal for me than it is for some of my friends who don't manage food allergies. So I thought his response was pretty special.
Yeah, I was definitely touched by how many people actually had benefits from it, because you'd think it's just all would be negative. But right, it's good to see the positive and see how we can not only see the positive, but then support others along the way, which I believe that your book is doing wholeheartedly. And with that, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the classes that you are offering, what you're teaching, the topics, or whatever you would like to talk about with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So in addition to having the book, I also launched a business called Food Allergy Allies. And my goal is to make allies, to create people who want to support food allergic individuals. The baby that created all these classes is my babysitter food allergy training. And that was born out of my need as a mom with young kids, wishing that I had a babysitter who understood food allergies, to take that off of me. So I could just be in mom mode. Like, here's the list of numbers. Here's where we keep, extra diapers. I didn't want to have to do the training too, because that felt a little bit overwhelming. So I love that class because it can take that pressure off of parents, and it can give the students a space to ask any questions that they want. But pretty much any of the classes that I teach, I can also do group classes for adults or kids. They're all going to touch on some of the same main things, which is the basics about food allergies, facts about food allergies, ways to reduce risk of allergic reactions, and then how to be prepared in case there is an allergic reaction. And so depending on the specific group or the age, I tweak it accordingly. But I want to make sure that important information goes to anyone who takes any classes with me.
Nice. And so what about EpiPens? You teach kids how to
Yeah, so the part where,
administer?
yep, on how to be prepared, ways to be prepared, that's part of it. So we talk about, what are the signs and symptoms of anaphylaxis and what does an epinephrine auto-injector look like? So I'll bring a couple, different trainers with me and we'll watch the videos from the companies. So they teach you exactly how to use it and then people can try them out. I think it's less scary than you've had a chance to see how something works with it, no needle in the trainers. There's no needle, there's no medication. So it's purely for practice purposes. But just to introduce it to people so that it's not so foreign of a concept. And this little injector item is something they've seen before and they have at least explored how to use it.
Because there's more than one type of
There are.
injector, right? So I think that would also be really confusing if you learned on one, but then you're panicking and you have another one, but to be able to remain calm because it's not another one, it's one that you're familiar with. Because what is it, about 3 different types?
I would say there might be at least 5. One of the challenges is that not all brands give a free trainer in the auto injector package. So some of them don't have practice items. So I would suggest to anyone who is babysitting or caring for someone with a food allergy to still ask to see in advance, what does your auto injector look like? And can you show me how to use it? And pretend, if it's a real one, don't actually use it, but just some of them, different caps come off in different ways. And you would hate to withhold medication for someone simply because you're not sure how to use the device. So
Absolutely. Great. Love that you're doing that work. That's so good.
Thank you.
And then that brings me to your consultancy work. So you're doing now consulting different agencies on food allergies. So maybe can you say a little bit how that came about and how you're supporting people?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's classes where somebody could specifically take a class, but then there's also the consulting option for we have this need, we're not sure how to meet it. Can you help us out? And right now I'm working on a project with a local organization to create a resource for parents. So that's been a really great opportunity. And similarly, I would love to support businesses or organizations who are trying to keep people safer that might have food allergies, be that employees that they have or volunteers that they have. I think there's a good space for that. And there's not always easy ways to get that information. So I hope to fill some of these gaps.
Nice. And how does it work? Like somebody just calls you up and tells you what they need, and then you let them know how you can help them. And
yeah, it would always start with like just a free phone call to get a sense of what they're looking for, what their needs are, and am I the right person to help them meet those needs? And if we determine yes, then it's, sort of an assessment of how things are for them, where there are spaces that I think I can help make a little bit of simple change. And I think the key often is simple change, giving people things they can do that are not complicated, are not overly dramatic, but just simple steps, starting small to make sure, I think, especially if we have a food allergic population in the workforce, are they known? Do their employers realize they're there? How are they handling conference luncheons and any sort of business meals and birthday celebrations in the office? A lot of my focus was put on classrooms and schools, but my mind is always going. And I'm thinking about, how about food allergic adults who, who's advocating for them, who's helping them? And rather than focus on them, I prefer to focus on the people running organizations and businesses who want to be allies. Because I think when they're willing to say, hey, this is something we could maybe use a little help on, it's going to be a really nice relationship.
Awesome. Love the work you're doing. Thank you for being there to educate us about this huge deal. I mean, this is like life-threatening sometimes, food allergies. Not all of them are like that, but to me, I was always, well, I knew about people who had food allergies, but I wasn't really so aware of how it impacted their day-to-day life. I thought it was just, oh, it's just a little thing, but it's not a little thing, especially to children. And it's something that we need to be aware of because food allergies are growing. The number of people who have food allergies, it continues to grow. And we have the ability to support people. We just need to have the means and the knowledge. So thank you for helping us with that.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for sharing my book and helping me get more of this information out to people.
So for our viewers who are watching this, if you would like to purchase Just One Bite, Food Allergy Moms Search for Answers by Meghan Neri, it's available on the Inner Peace Press website and also most distributors online. So again, thank you, Meghan, for being here. And
My pleasure. Thank you, Heather.
it's great work. All right.
Yeah.
So don't forget to like and subscribe to always be informed of when a new Inner Peace Press video is coming out. And we'll see you next time.